Hey, my name is Barbie Armenta. I'm a wife, mother, life coach, and founder of Brave One. Everyone has a story, and I believe that you can be inspired in your own life by hearing another woman's courageous story. We're here to talk about purpose, identity, divorce, blending families. If you're talking about it, I want to talk about it. We are here to have brave conversations. Welcome back to Brave Conversations. I can't believe this is going to be the final one for this season. It has been such an exciting time. I first have to just thank David and Jenn Pfahlert, who with Silent Stream Media have been producing all of these episodes and just give us the best quality sound and all the things. So I'm so grateful for them. And today we get to be joined by co-producer Jenn Pfahlert to get to talk about the whole season. So welcome, Jenn.
Hi, Barbie, again. It's good to be back on the show.
Thanks for being here. So today I just thought, let's just recap all the amazing things we've got to hear this season. And for those of you listening, if you missed an episode, I just want to encourage you to go back and listen to all the great things. We got to talk to some amazing women. What a blessing for me, because I get to just sit here and absorb all the wisdom from all these amazing women. So Jenn, let's talk about it. So what did you think? So episode 1, and
let's dive right in. So episode 1, Barbie, you really kind of took us through a little bit of your backstory, where you come from, and how you came to be here today. I really feel like episode 1 was such a great way to introduce you to the podcast world, but also your brave conversation about divorce and having to find yourself. And how did you feel about putting yourself out there?
I think it's just so valuable for us to hear another woman's story. And so if I'm going to be sharing and having other women be vulnerable, I want to do the same. And just knowing that God doesn't waste anything, and that even going through a divorce and feeling like I went through a season of it's just too late for me. God can't use me now. I'm not going to have all the things that I thought I would have. And to see how far I've come in that time of not only did God bless me with an amazing marriage and this big blended family and things that I never thought I would have, but to be able to have this podcast and my coaching and the Brave Gathering and all the things that we do to help other women has just been an incredible journey. So it just made perfect sense to me that we would start there and share that story.
I think the story that stuck with me the most from that episode was the image of you walking around your house and picking up all your boys' toys and putting them in a box. And that was just so heart-wrenching for me to hear. But then seeing you now and the wife and the mother and the woman that you've become, that's really just such a shining light to others. This podcast really is such a great representation of that.
Oh, thank you for that. That was probably the time in my life when I thought I've lost hope. And just to see that God restored all of that has been pretty amazing. And then getting to have my now husband come on episode 2 was also pretty special.
Yes, I think that was such a fantastic episode because you guys were really talking about dating again, learning to love again after divorce and after kind of feeling that hopelessness. Even though you guys shared some really challenging stories about how your relationship started and how it went along and sort of a little bit of the heartbreak that also happened along the way, I can't help but feel, listening back on those episodes and thinking, man, I felt so joyful because you guys had such a great outcome and you really learned how to do relationship the right way.
It makes so much more sense when we let God choose, right? And being able, but I tell people all the time to put their brave on and to do things. And what that means is to be who God made you to be authentic, to be vulnerable. And Richard and I just had this conversation the other day of what that looked like to be able to reclaim that time, because to having someone in my life that I can actually be vulnerable with, that I can feel like I am the most me that I've ever been in my life, and to be able to allow someone in after all that I had gone through and be able to trust. And that is the biggest gift. And so we love getting to share that story because we have that because we did the work.
Yeah.
We put in that, we did the hard stuff in the beginning and laid that foundation for where we are now.
If there is one tip that you would give somebody who's listening right now who is experiencing dating again after, a broken marriage or a broken relationship, what is the one tip that you would give this person?
One is hard. I have so many.
The leading one, then.
The leading one. Whether it's in relationship or just in life, it's that, and this word is, we hear it so often now, but don't let it get lost because authenticity is so important, and just really discovering who you are and being that. We get caught up in being people pleasers and wearing masks or trying to cover up something that may be part of our past. But when we can find freedom from that and just be authentically who God made us to be and allowing someone to love us for who we are, that's probably the most important thing, whether you have a man or you don't, but just having that freedom in your life to just be you.
So that leads to a follow-up question, because I know that you're a freedom coach and you're so great at what you do. How does one find that authenticity? Because like you said, we often start to live life for other people or other expectations, and we start to kind of lose that sense of like who I truly am. And for somebody who has been living that for a long time, it can be really hard to kind of even know, who am I really? So could you maybe give us a little bit of your coaching wisdom in what are some of the ways that you can find your authenticity?
I think one of the things for me was just realizing that our past leaves clues and going back to what were those things that I enjoyed as a kid? What were things that brought me joy? And when did that get lost along the way? And that's probably a great first step, is to just kind of revisit those things that you used to love, and then adding that back into your life and realizing what kind of things also do you need to let go of. Because I know in my life, I held on to some lies. Like, for example, my mom would always say that my sister and I were shy. And I thought, am I though? Like, I never really thought that I was, but I started to accept it as my identity. And then as I went through other things in life that, like 2 divorces, then those things just fed into that lie of just, I don't have anything important to say. And so as I can look back over my life and see these things that were the desires of my heart, but where they went wrong, then I can start to let go of the lie. And we're empowered by the Holy Spirit, right? To have and be all that God has for us. And so asking God to take those things away and to show us the truth. But it can also be fun, that back to that, revisiting your childhood, things that brought you joy,
Follow those breadcrumbs, people.
Yes, you can have fun with that. And just I used to always, if someone wanted to go to dinner, I would be like, it's fine, whatever you want. And then one day I started asking myself, what do I want? If I could eat anything right now, what would it be? And realize that your opinion has value.
Yeah, that's so good. Speaking of, you actually shared a little bit of that story that you shared about growing up hearing that you are shy. You shared that at the Brave Gathering. And speaking of opinions, I feel like Jenn Couch had a lot of opinions when it comes to that sober, curious life.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. Actually, the episode with Jenn Couch, also known as Sober Sis, was one of our most listened to episodes.
Wow.
So I know when you see the hashtag sober curious, people really are sober curious and want to know, what is that kind of lifestyle all about? And does that mean, she did a great job of explaining that does not mean you're an alcoholic. That does not mean you have to hit rock bottom. Mm-hmm. It just means that you could make some choices in your own life to drink less or not at all and be sober minded.
Yeah, so good. I think there's also a stigma around people that are sober or are becoming sober curious, of people thinking you're no fun. I think she really broke that myth while she was
really
here,
did.
because she is fun.
She is tons of fun. But she talks about just our culture, and that she uses the term gray area drinking, which is one that I had never heard. But it's that idea that you're not someone that is an alcoholic, but you're just in that, I want to get a little more control over my choices. Yeah. And she gives us a lot of tools for that.
So if you guys haven't heard about her detox program, every month at the first of the month, right?
Yes. So if you want to spend December experiencing what it's like to instead try out some of her mocktail recipes, or some of the alcohol-free wines and things that she talks about, you can do that in the month of December. She'll start December 1st. So you can check her out at Sober Sis. And if you want to do that December, or if that's something you're setting as a resolution to start in January, I think what she's doing is amazing.
I think that's actually a really great idea, starting your Sober Curious journey during the holiday season, because that's usually the time when most people load up. So, to make a shift and try something new, I think that's a fantastic idea.
And she has so many. For me, it was that idea of, you want to still feel celebratory. Like, I drink my Topo Chico in a wine glass because I like to have that. It feels more festive to use a pretty glass, and so she has so many great recipes and ideas where you still get that whole experience that you're looking for with your girlfriends or on a date, but without the negative effects the next morning.
That's right.
So who did we have after that? We talked about the Brave Gathering.
Yes.
And I cannot believe it's already been a few weeks since the Brave Gathering. I had so much build up all year. And we just had such incredible speakers this year, and the music, and we had our own song. Elizabeth released Brave on, and it was just amazing. And so what was your take, Jen? This was your first Brave Gathering.
It was my first Brave Gathering. And, I have to say, it's the first women's conference that I actually attended in a number of years. So I think just to be in that environment, being around other women who were there hungry for knowledge, hungry for wisdom, but also had that burning desire to look within themselves and find inspiration, but also find a story that they could resonate with. I thought that was really palpable, and I loved all the little elements that you included. I mean, year 5 of the Brave Gathering, and you pulled out all the stops, the grazing boards and the little goodies that you had for everybody at the front when they came in, just the inviting and welcoming presence that all the ladies brought with them to make everybody, all the guests, feel that they belonged. I just thought it was such a fantastic gathering, and I learned so much from all the different speakers as well.
I love that. And the Ridgely Theater, what an amazing
so
venue.
Cute.
It was so fun. Yeah, I loved being there. That was had been kind of a dream, and to get to do that this year was so exciting. And of course, having Silent Stream Media doing the recording and replay that we now have available for everyone. So if you missed it, you can still pick up the replay on the website and get to still experience the whole thing, because there was so much wisdom to be had from that stage.
For sure. And can I just also say that it was my first time seeing you speaking on stage as a speaker, and what powerful stories you shared. I mean, I cried, I laughed, I was like,
thank you.
But also just so inspired, because really all of the things that you shared about your experiences, your life, and the wisdom that you had to impart on us that weekend, it wasn't anything extravagantly out of reach. Everything that you shared was so relatable, things that I had either a direct experience with myself in my own personal life, or just things that I've seen in the lives of other ladies around me, and that the fact that you came and showed up and shared those stories in such a vulnerable way, but also in such an intimate way, I thought was very powerful.
Thank you.
I got a lot
that
out
means
of
the
it.
world to me. I appreciate that. Yeah, as a coach, I always want to make it something that it's tangible and something that people can grasp and take home and do the work and use in their own life. It's great to have a fun event that we can all come to, and we get to hang out and we get to eat good food and have amazing vendors and go shopping, and all that is amazing and so much a part of it. But I also want people to listen to these speakers and then make changes in their own life. That's so important to me.
And speaking of speakers, Stacey Danford was one of your speakers, and she was also the next guest on your podcast.
Yes, I've heard her name so many times since the Brave Gathering. She was phenomenal. She's a neuroscientist, but she also knows her Bible inside and out, and how she will correlate the science with scripture. So when we hear take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ, she will tell you how to practically, from a science perspective, take every thought captive and make it obedient and give us these tools to get rid of those negative voices that are in our head, and replace that with truth and positive messages. It was amazing in the most fun way.
Yeah, I think perhaps something that I love just as much as her colorful outfit and her sparkly boots is the fact that she comes from a teaching background. So she used to be a teacher, and so the way that she then now teaches her science knowledge is in such a digestible way, so it doesn't feel like it's out of the realm of possibility. A lot of times when you hear about these scientifical methods, it's hard to relate to, and it's hard to think like, okay, how can I apply that to my life? But the way that she presents it is just very easy.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. And she taught us all how to glow from the inside out.
Yes.
And it was so good. If you did not experience that, well, one, listen to the podcast, because she shared so much wisdom for us on that day. But then also, if you get an opportunity to watch the replay and hear all the lessons from that night, you will not regret it. It was so good.
Your next guest was Mia Moss of Black Coffee here in Fort Worth, Texas.
She has one of the most inspiring stories. She was actually at the Brave Gathering in 2020 and then on the podcast, because I cannot get enough of her story. She is one of the most courageous people I've ever met. Just her mission to be intentional with where she places her business on the east side of Fort Worth, which is a more underserved community, and she's bringing businesses to that area, and which will also in turn help the city bring more resources to that area. And I love her mission. But then while under construction, goes through a medical emergency that you will want to listen and hear more about, but she still continued on and opened on time, and I just thought she was so courageous.
I think meeting Mia, one would think that she's quite reserved almost, but when you hear her story, she has such a fiery passion inside of her soul, and that shows in all of the things that she puts her hand to. So yes, I agree with you.
Absolutely.
Her story is so courageous and very powerful.
Whether it's coffee or community or bringing the two together, she is doing amazing things to change her community, but also her coffee's at Central Market. Like, she is expanding in her community and beyond to make an impact. And I love
true entrepreneur.
Story. Yes. And then we had another entrepreneur, Amanda May.
Yes.
Who is a powerhouse entrepreneur. She really charted a path for her and her son, moving across the country to Las Vegas and starting her business there in the beauty industry, and just really impacting lives. But now coming to Texas with her boyfriend, Sean, who is also incredible, and what they're doing with their podcast, Pays to Be Clean podcast, and just building a business here and a life. So yeah, so many things we can say about Amanda Mae.
I mean, when I think Amanda Mae, I think, who do I know that is more focused than she is? The podcast episode that she was on, she shared so many aspects of her story, but the one thing that was consistent was at every single decision-making point, she was extremely focused on what she wanted out of it. And I think that's
and
really
fearless.
She's
right?
so fearless. Yeah. And I think that's such a great message for us as women to hear, because a lot of times we feel like we don't have power over our situation. We don't have the decision-making authority over our situation, because we take into account all the other things, you know, our family, our jobs, our abilities, our skills even sometimes. And, you know, we kind of lose focus on, I can actually have a say in how my life goes. I think if you listen to that podcast with Amanda, any woman would be inspired to take that step of, you know what, I can take charge. I can make that decision in my life of how I want it to go.
Yeah, she started from a dark place, and then being able to take that and her son and her dog and drive across the country and become the successful entrepreneur that she is.
Mm-hmm.
Is such a powerful story. And I think, yeah, like you said, everyone can be inspired by that.
Mm-hmm.
And we followed that up with Kelly Calabrese, who is also
Oh.
a powerhouse. Everything that she sets her mind to, she's going to go at it 100% and be
Yes.
successful. And I know that she did that not only in all her business endeavors, but also in her marriage. And then to be blindsided the way that she was,
My gosh,
with her husband leaving, would take a lot of people out, and probably did for a little bit for her as God was healing. But to see how he's brought the beauty from ashes, and how she's now able to help other divorced women with her Intentionally Fabulous group and program.
Yeah.
And she is changing lives.
for sure. I think that the greatest thing that I learned from Kelly's story was just the story of building your character. You know, she talked about how she grew up with very specific family values and seeing those values lived out day in and day out. And that really became the building block for her own character, and being that person who really looks at every single thing that she approaches with an attitude of excellence. And so even though she was blindsided, and you're right, I'm sure so many of us would have just been taken out by that news or that situation of divorce, and it looked at it as failure. You know, I think a lot of us probably would, especially someone who is so success focused, being left like that, I think would have felt like such a failure. But she just went back, she bounced back to the character that she had within, which was, you know, move on, you know, carry on, continue with this mindset of a success focused life. And she's doing it so well now.
She's doing it incredibly. I love just seeing what she's doing, following her online, and just seeing how all the lives that she's changing. I've personally met people that are in her Intentionally Fabulous group, or they're in her other singles group that she has, and they are just loving all the things that she is doing to help them, because community is so needed, and she's creating that for people in so many ways, especially after divorce. You can feel so lonely, and to be able to be surrounded by other people that are in similar situations has been just amazing.
I think too that if you are in a headspace, or if you are in an emotional space where you feel helpless or you can't get up, sometimes you really just need to lean on somebody who is a little bit stronger, who is kind of coming out of that and has the strength to pull you up. You know, you don't have to feel like you're doing it alone. And I think that's one of the best things about Kelly's program and what she does, the message that she brings is, you know, everyone has that moment of weakness, but all it takes is another sister to lean on and lift you up and pull you out of that funk. So I think that's so powerful.
It's so powerful. And then we heard from Kristen Dickerson, after that, another story of just someone that found themselves in a situation, and then she went on literal journey back to God and then wrote about it.
Yeah.
And she is also on Texas Today. So many of the people listening may have seen her on TV. And, you know, we see someone like that and we see them on TV and they're so put together and look so impressive. And she is so impressive. But then you get to hear the backstory, because I think we often see people where they are and we just assume that's where they always were. And we don't know that story. And that's what's so important to me with Brave Conversations, is to realize we all start somewhere.
Yeah.
And so for us to get to kind of follow along on her journey on the Camino de Santiago, then to India and to Israel, and all those experiences she had and the people that she met, and getting to kind of go along for the ride was really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the coolest thing about Kristen is that she had that moment of crossroads between career and her values. And how many times have we as women been faced with a conundrum where we're like, well, there's this one thing that I really have been working really hard towards, whether it's a career, a relationship, a goal in life, and then and you have your values on the other side, and it's just not aligning. What do you do in that moment, you know? And I think that Kristen's story was really such a courageous one of how she was able to make that difficult decision to walk away from her career, not knowing if it was ever going to come back to her. And she just threw her mittens in the ring and was like, all right, I'm going on this spiritual journey instead, so I can really dive deeper into that value system that I held in my heart for a long time and wasn't able to explore. And then coming back, what did God do? He just brought it back to her. So
and multiplied it.
Yes.
I think that's an exciting thing, when we can see that when we step out in faith and allow God to do what he wants to do, that he can bring us something better than we ever dreamed. And that's exactly what he did for her after it. But she stayed in the moment, you know. She wasn't focused on the end. And I think that's the thing, is like, okay, Lord, I'm walking away. What are you going to do? You know, but she didn't do that. She literally just stepped away, stayed in the moment. What does he have for me? Each day, each step, they walked a lot of steps.
Yes.
Each day, each step. And then, you know, was in the moment with whoever she met.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great lesson for all of us. Just as we rush through the busyness of life, we do not have to go all the way to India for that experience. You know, we can be right here and just be present in our life. And I think that was one of the things that I walked away from with her, is just that learning how to be present.
Yeah. And letting go of the expectation.
Yes.
Of what should happen next.
Now I'm going to do this, God, but then you're going to do this,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. Don't tell God what to do.
Yeah, I've been there too many times. And he's like, yeah, you're cute, but that's not what we're doing. So, but then we get to end the season with Elizabeth Clark Haverman, who I adore. She has sang for the Brave Gathering the last 3 years. So if you've attended a gathering, you know she's phenomenal. If you've just been out doing karaoke and get to run into her, she was saying that she will sing Aretha Franklin or Whitney Houston. Anyone say that to you, you've got to think, no way are you doing these two people. But she can actually do it.
Yeah.
That's, her voice is so special. And not only her voice, but just she's special in general.
Yeah. And she's, again, one of those ladies that you meet her and she's so just bubbly and warm and fun and kind that you would never expect her to have lived through such traumatic experiences, but she has, and she's been able to hold on to that light that she carries. And I mean, now she just spreads it around with her music even more than she did before, I think.
Yes, to how God can use her, and how even in her hardest times, she would still be worshiping him. And I think that's what got her through the things that she experienced, and then to see God's goodness in her life now, with her big blended family and just the opportunities and new music that's coming out and that we can all be looking forward to. And Brave On, her song she wrote for the Brave Gathering.
Oh my gosh, I can't get it out of my head.
It's so good.
It's so catchy. Everybody go download her song because it is super catchy.
Yes, we will put a link it's in the show notes from her episode, and we'll do it again so that everyone can go and download the song and get a little sample of what's coming. She's got an EP coming out soon. So but yeah, she's amazing. It's been an incredible season. My first season of Brave Conversations.
Did it live up to your expectations?
Exceeded my expectations. I have loved all of these conversations and just the incredible women that are just willing to come on and be so vulnerable, and they're so inspiring. And so I know they bless me with their stories.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's doing the same for others, and I'm excited for another season.
Yes.
And that will be coming out in January. We'll be replaying some over the holiday season, and then in January we will start with a brand new season. We're already prepping for the Brave Gathering 2023.
Wow.
The theme is loved. So
I like that.
I look forward to seeing what all the women will come up with for their talks for that.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's going to be a really great topic to land, or I think that's a really great topic to land on for 2023. I think all of us definitely could use more love.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm grateful for you and David and all that you've done to making this podcast possible.
You're welcome.
We're excited for your adventures that are coming up, and we will do an episode soon so we can share all the details. So
it's been such a privilege to be able to work with you, Barbie, and to make this podcast happen. Dave and I have we've just been so inspired by every single guest, but also the way that you have carried the show is incredible. So kudos to you. Great job.
Thank you so much. And thanks for being on today.
Yes.
And thanks to everyone that's been listening this season who has started with us with this and joined our conversations. And if you have enjoyed these conversations, of course, I would love for you to share it with your friends, and you can leave a review wherever podcasts are found, and we would be so grateful. So thanks for making this first season amazing, and I hope you will join us for the replays that are coming up, but then for our new season in January. Thanks for joining me for today's conversation. If this resonated with you, please save this podcast to your playlist and share it with your friends. If there's a conversation that you want to hear, make sure and reach out at braveone.net and send a topic request. Until our next episode, remember to put your brave on.